You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
KC Laboratory, sponsored by Emprise Bank.
It's another live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. Look, an Emprise Bank debit card is good anywhere. Why worry about the nearest building when you can pick a trusted company that cares about the KC Metro? Debit card options to choose from, a new mobile app with all kinds of features. Emprise Bank goes wherever you go and can be your trusted partner wherever you live. I'm here with one of my trusted partners, Craig Stout. Find him on Twitter at Barley Hop. Dude, it's good to be back. I honestly don't know the last time I was on. I gotta go look at the timestamp. It's gotta be like 2.5 weeks ago.
I can't believe you found your way back, buddy. I really was genuinely worried about you. I thought that maybe you got lost, but we don't have time for that. We'll get with that later this week. We have a special guest joining us this week. NFL writer for The Athletic and podcaster for The Athletic, Nate Tice. Nate, buddy, friend, how are we doing today?
Doing well. You sugarcoated how I presented that in the green room before the show when I was talking about writing and podcasting, and really just said it with so much positivity and enthusiasm. So thank you for sugarcoating it on that presentation.
No, we appreciate your writing right now. It counts. It doesn't.
Breakout players article coming out tomorrow. I don't think there's
there
any
you
Chiefs on
go.
it, though. I'm sorry.
Why not?
You guys are established.
Let the record show people are out of their mind right now that Nate Tice is on the show. Like everyone is hyped out of their mind. By God, that's Nate Tice's music, which is perfect. Like you're a wrestling guy. You're like a huge wrestling guy.
Huge. I got back into it, especially with AEW coming along, and so I've watched. What really got me back into it was this YouTube show called OSW Review, and it's these 3 Irish guys. Stick with me here. 3 Irish guys that review old wrestling pay-per-views, and so they reviewed all the Hulkamanias, and then they did some WCW stuff, like bad WCW, and like David Arquette won the WCW title and stuff like that. But they're great, and they kind of like teach history with it. And so I kind of watched that, and then AEW came around. I'm like, okay, I kind of like all that flippy stuff, and it was perfect. Huge wrestling mark. I got back into it again in my old age, in my 30s.
Love it.
So I don't think I'm on the same level. Like I'm not going to the AEW events. There was one in KC just like last week.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with wrestling documentaries and all the behind the scenes stuff.
It's just as good as in-ring stuff. That's the best part.
I think it's better. So like I had this I think I speak for most people my age in their 30s. I had a healthy fear of the Undertaker growing up. Like nightmares.
Yeah.
And so but like it was like, like this fascination with him too. And so that that 5-part documentary on the Undertaker that came out a couple years ago, like since then I've consumed every behind the scenes wrestling documentary I possibly can.
Yeah, I've been telling Kent to go watch Dark Side of the Ring stuff.
Stuff.
Oh man,
they're great
stuff.
Great
stuff.
David Schumacher. I'm sorry, but David Shoemaker from The Ringer. He has a great book. That's I'm blanking on what the title is, but each chapter is basically through a wrestler that passed, that died, and that's how he told an era of wrestling. And that's fantastic. So go seek that out. As I messed up his name and messed up the title, so
that's gonna be a hard
find out on Amazon.
It's gonna be a tough Google search, I think, but we'll figure it out. We're not here to talk about wrestling for the entirety. We're actually here to let you guys
board games. Here we go.
Talk about board games.
Board games. Concordia, 2-player map, Corsica.
Yeah. I'll go get it. Yeah.
No, I mean if Nate Tice is gonna be here, and Nate, I want to give you your flowers, man. I told you this, I think, when we were out in Vegas. I genuinely think you're the best in the world doing what we're all doing. I'm not just saying that. It's rare to find a guy that has the the pedigree, the acumen, all that stuff that can communicate as eloquently as you.
Oh,
And I just want to just make sure, like, dude, it sucks that you're in this industry. You're making us all look bad.
No,
but
I appreciate that. Really, I do. Yeah. I mean, you try and make me sentimental or something, but still,
no,
hey. Let's talk about the Undertaker. Scared of that.
We're softening you up so that we can take you down a peg.
Yeah,
That's what
right?
we're doing here.
I know.
We're gonna challenge all kinds of thoughts today.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun entering this world, whatever this world is. This our own carny BS that we have going on here.
That's exactly right.
This hellscape that is football media.
Football Twitter.
It's something, man. There's some dark corners in there. Just like we're not going to try to approach those today. But I mean, I think we got to talk about offensive here. Not that you're not a multidimensional guy, but come on, like you're on the pulse of a lot of different things across the landscape of the National Football League. I think you're a must read, a must listen, a must follow. If you're not following Nate Tice on Twitter, like you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yes.
It's a super bright football. You were with the Falcons, right?
Yes, Falcons and the Raiders. Yep.
Okay, you had to name drop the second team, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a travel.
I forget. Yeah, I'm so neutral now that I kind of like forget that like little like quick allegiances real quick.
Well, it's interesting because like I don't feel like guys that have the NFL past kind of cross the barrier in the media as much as you'd like to see. I think that's what makes kind of you so unique is like you have kind of crossed that barrier a little bit more than I think a lot of other people have. And that's been it's been a valuable insight. I think a lot of people learn from you. So we're
it's because I'm a nerd, Ken.
Yeah,
that's why. That's what helps. It really helps though.
You got a diverse skill set, but it all ties back to nerddom, right? You've got the wrestling corner, you've got the board game corner,
Yeah. So
but
board game nerds are the majority of this right now, so you're good.
But I think we want to talk about the Chiefs offense. I think there's a lot to talk about, and we'll try to get you out in under an hour if we can. But I think just off the top, the additions they make this offseason, like what did you kind of think of what the cupboard after the draft and after free agency? What do you think it looks like for Mahomes? What do you like, maybe dislike, whatever?
I mean, I think the Chiefs offense is in a situation that a lot of teams would want to be in, not just because they have Patrick Mahomes, who really is, still the best quarterback, even if you aren't saying that, you're thinking he's top 2 on the podium, but I think he's number 1. And with an offensive line, that's a true strength and not like, oh, they're pretty good, like an actual strength that's what the strength of the team is, which is always ideal. Even when I was with the Raiders, we had a strong offensive line, and it just helps. It makes everything else easier. It makes your running backs look better, makes your quarterback, of course, his life easier, which lets you attack elsewhere. And it seemed to me that the Chiefs shifted to what their strength is. Before, I believe it was speed, and I don't want to say finesse in a bad way, but speed and more or less finesse. Like it was a little, that's what Andy Reid is. He tricks you. He's one of the best designers. He likes to do that kind of stuff. As the best designers of plays, but also utilizing the talents that was at his disposal. I mean, extremely athletic group. And I think now is understanding they hit maybe a ceiling of that. So I think this transition of this offseason is a philosophical change. And this is just theory. And I'm hoping, like, I haven't seen OTA stuff. But this is all just theory. And I think that's the signing of these receivers. It's very much guys are going to have roles, and guys are going to have, you're best at this. This is what your strengths are going to be. This is what your secondary role is going to be. This is your primary role. This is secondary role, almost like basketball team. And like, hey, you're the slasher. You're the jump shooter. You're this. And it feels like now it's like Hardman can do what his strong suits are, which to me is intermediate and deep stuff. And maybe some like focusing, less is more for him. I think it's when he can just focus on being an athlete, utilize your gifts, and don't have to be a crafty technician. I think also signing Juju, who I think is a great fit. It's using him and MVS. I think those guys as the wide tight end, and keeping Travis Kelce as truly an X receiver. It's almost an invert of what their roles would be. And I think that's what they're going to try and utilize more. I'm excited to watch it. I really am. I think it's going to be old school touchdown to check down with some sprinkling of other stuff in there. Maybe a little more what the Packers have done the last few years, but with more, some of the Andy Reidness to it. There's some run plays, which we can talk about soon on the show about what I think they might lean in towards and what I think they were getting to at the end of the year. But I think it's what they are eating their vegetables a little bit. And they went so far to more of these new modernish stuff that I think now it's like, okay, we got to figure out what the blend is, what dials to switch. And yeah, I hope that too long didn't read. I think they're getting bigger and stronger. And I think they're just building beyond the quarterback and the offensive line.
Yeah, no, they are. I wrote about it last Friday. I wrote about how, they're trying to make their 11 personnel operate more like their 12. You know, last year you didn't get to see the gap stuff, the insert stuff as much because you didn't really feel comfortable with his slot guys blocking that up. You got Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman in the slot. Like those guys don't excel as blockers. Now all of a sudden you can utilize guys like Juju, MVS in those roles. So yeah, no, that lines perfectly up with, I think, what they're trying to do. They're trying to be a little more diverse with their skills. And I think we talked about it last offseason. Both you and I talked about them running more gap because they built this offensive line to play power and everything like that. And then they just didn't. I mean,
they still leaned on outside zone.
Still waiting for it every week. Just like,
we all were. Now. I'm telling you, I think there was probably
waiting for AFC West games. They're waiting for when they after the bye.
It's coming in the playoffs. Here it comes.
There was like 3 different game previews where we had the debate. Like, is this the week?
It wasn't. It wasn't ever the week. Yeah. It really wasn't.
And I went to that well so hard when I'm doing those preview shows and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, wait till it's trying to sound smart. Nope.
Offensive line. It's such a big, powerful offensive line. It's so physical and they can pull and there's so many things that they can. Like I studied so much Lincoln Riley Oklahoma offense last offseason.
I saw too close of it in training camp. I was like, there it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, there it is.
It's happening.
It's happening.
It's coming.
Yeah.
So that being said, do you think it's coming this season?
Well, the run that I do think is coming, I say maybe a couple more sprinkling of that, but I think the run that's coming the most is that I call it Y insert. And they did it out of 12 personnel. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked about this a little bit, is they fold in, they will have Noah Gray, Blake Bell off the ball, and he inserts like a fullback on one of the linebackers, usually it's to the pointed mic. And they run like basically an at you run play. It's lead zone. I mean, essentially what you're running, but you're running it out of 11 personnel. And they sprinkled it in against the Bills. Other games, they also utilized it, but they really leaned into it near the end of the season. I think that's the run that they're going to go like really make like really it's 12 personnel acting like 11 kind of run play. I see them. That's where they get the RPOs out of that. But yeah, the gap stuff, I don't think they want Mahomes running. That's what you have to use when you do those GT counters with Orlando Brown, especially, is he has to be a runner. And the thing was, Mahomes actually, as a scrambler, was so effective last year. I mean, he always has been, but I think last year was his best, or at least the year that he had to be the most necessary year of him having to scramble was him having to do that. I actually want to talk about that a little later too. But I think in the run game, more insert plays, more at you plays, and a way for them to get that is the folding that tight end in, whether it be Noah Gray or Blake Bell, or, I mean, I hate to say it, but still it's going to be some spread inside zone unless they use their tight ends more for stuff. And that's the limitations of when you have a spread offense is which runs you can get to. So it's zone, GT counter, and that insert play, counter, normal counter you can maybe run, but they try to do that. And sometimes it's not very effective for them.
Well, not to dunk on Noah Gray too much, but like that was one of the few like run concepts he actually held up okay at.
Yeah, he did it at Duke. That's why. It was weird if you use a guy that's something he's handled before. It's supposed to take guys one-on-one.
I mean, Andy, even little stuff like that, and you'll find ways to play your strengths a little bit. And I mean, Noah Gray struggled, he struggled, largely to hold up the run game, but that was like, that was one of the, the few kind of concepts that he held up okay at. Nate, okay, I have this theory, and I don't even know if I brought this to the show. I think we've talked about it in the DMs a few times.
Coming back with a theory.
All right.
2 weeks to stew on it.
That's why he took the break. He had to formulate the theory. Really dive into it.
14 showers just sitting there thinking.
28 twice a day. This is really going to be anticlimactic. I kind of have this feeling like it's going to take a lot to take teams out of playing as much, too high as they did against the Chiefs. Like, I think the Chiefs could quote unquote figure it out and really, move the ball with even more consistency than they did last year. I still think teams are just going to sit in it. And I just want to know what you think about just that overarching concept, because I mean, we saw at least it slowed down, and like, I'm not gonna like, it didn't completely eliminate explosive plays, but maybe it eliminated the 75-yard touchdown a little bit more than it has in the past. And that might be enough for some of these teams to just be like, all right, we're gonna play a little bit more too high structure here and just live with the results. Which, I mean, blessing and a curse. Like, the Chiefs will largely probably be able to control the game, but the Chiefs also showed a propensity to implode a lot of times. Yeah. Like, the Chiefs beat themselves with a lot of consistency. I'm Tyreek Hill. I'm not taking shots on the way out, but I don't think I've been on a show since Tyreek Hill was traded. But I feel like it's going to be really hard to take teams out of, trying to play out of that a lot. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, that's where I think this leaning into a more how I think they hit the limitations of RPOs. So this is where they're going to focus on true runs and true passes and true play action, as opposed to more of putting a guy in a bind. It's more of a natural 1-2. And why I'm saying that is a lot more play action stuff, because how you get teams out of too high is you pound the rock on them or you hit them over the top. And why you do that is you don't want you're putting the safeties in a bind. When defenses are in too high, the safeties are the ones that you have to influence. When it's teams in one high, it's the linebackers that you have to influence, and the down safety. So now, how do you do that? You have to focus on short and long. That's where MVS comes in. This is running the ball in threes. This is, or layups and threes. That's what he is. He's threes and Ds. I don't know. Anyway, basketball, whatever cross sport reference I'm trying to make here.
I'm with you.
But
I get it. Yeah.
But how you attack down the field in the passing game is you have limitations if you only have 5-man protection. Your route depth is always going to be tied to your dropbacks, to your protection. So if you have 5-man protection with all 5 eligibles getting out, the ball has to come out pretty quick. And so you have to throw a lot more stuff underneath, especially with defenses that are playing very over the top. So now if you do 6-man protection, you're going to attack a little deeper. If you do 7-man protection, like a lot of play actions are, okay, you can attack way down the field. And how a lot of those play actions traditionally are taught, and this a good offense if you want to study for this would be like early Drew Brees Saints days with Sean Payton. It's old school play action, big overs, big crossers, and then it goes touchdown to check down. And so that's where you get, because you're influencing they have to get deep, and you create more room. And this is also where scrambling becomes more effective, because all those defenders have to push, and it's gravity. You're creating spacing. So I think that's where you don't want Orlando Brown dropping back in 5-man protection 30 plus times. You want him running the ball or running play action stuff, right? You want, that's what you want to do. So it's lead into these guys' strengths. So I think that's what everything's going to be more just heavy, like just more of a heavy play action, heavy run game, not but personnel, but the types of run at you, very vertical as opposed to horizontal. And I think that's where how you get too high defenses out of that kind of shell is by doing that.
You mentioned RPOs.
Yeah.
I know you have RPO rants involving the Chiefs, involving Mahomes.
Chiefs and the Bills.
And, I mean, yes. No, we feel the same way. Like, we have talked about it multiple times on this show. It's like, just line up and run some traditional concepts. Just because you're giving him that option, you're giving him that read, and he's going to take the pass. And he's all world, all everything quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He can make stuff fit that other guys don't, but like you said, take the layups every once in a while. Just take them. They're there for the taking. So I do you think that he actually pulls back the reins on the RPOs? Like, we really saw him integrated strong with Alex Smith that last year, and then they just kind of really ramped up since then.
That's what happens is defenses now, like, this is the one rant I went on. It was especially the Bengals in the second half.
We don't need to talk about.
Yeah, I know, but that's where, and this is the Bills ran into the same thing too. Is you're given a true RPO, like the old school RPO to me is like a bubble. Okay, running stick, with 2 outs or flatten out with an RPO, you're influencing the same type of guy. You're influencing that defender, that overhang defender. The problem is sometimes that overhang defender is playing not in a great position when like to defend the ball. So quarterbacks are taking that and they're treating it like a true pass play. They're going, oh shit, throw 5 yards. Defense goes, that is great. That is great. 4, like we tackle it. Sometimes it's 3 yards, especially if Tyreek Hill squares up. Like sometimes it's not a great play. And I knew that'd be it. I knew that'd be a hit.
I got it.
But so what the term I've used, I don't know how much I could swear, but is they got bastardized. They got convoluted. It got too cute, and it's like, yes, it's not the right or wrong answer. Like technically, it's not wrong, but the better answer is to hand the ball off. And because it's such a light box, there's 5 dudes in there, and you're reading the D end. And if you read the D end, you have plus numbers on a zone play. You can bang out 6-7 yards a pop, like they did in the first time they played the Bengals in Week 17. And they're just hand the ball off, nice, and what I call juicy run looks, very nice. Just no bodies in there, like literally no body is in there. One linebacker that the running back just has to read. And I think that's what happened. They got to those RPOs that, yes, you are technically correct, Patrick, in throwing that, but hand it off. Hand it off. The Bills ran some more success when they had to go through the same kind of change, metamorphosis, and I think the Chiefs kind of realized that as well.
Yeah, well, and we've heard from people, like from the offensive line perspective too. Like sometimes it's just demoralizing to not get that opportunity to run, with that light box and kind of pound the ball and kind of establish your will a little bit on the game. Yep. And obviously, like you still get to, but like it's different. I mean, they're not getting to run us downhill, which is like, again, we talked about the strength of this offensive line. But guys that are a little bit more capable of lining up and running downhill. Yeah. You can't do that with the RPOs as much, because you've got to maintain your, distance with the line of scrimmage. So, I get it. And
you're making the defender wrong. So if you just kept Pepper, if he doesn't have to ever worry about the run, the pass becomes less effective.
There's no conflict.
There's no conflict.
There's no conflict.
And that's where the original rule was to put that guy in conflict. And so it's like, yeah. And that's why I always say, it's like, yeah, it's like getting a B-. Like you're okay with it. You're okay with it. Like you're fine. It gets you a degree, but it's really, I know Craig is like cringing at that, but it's like, but handing the ball off is the A-. That's the A. It's like those, even if you get the 6 yards on the stick route, like a 6-yard run play just affects more because you're affecting 7 different defenders as opposed to just the one guy that was in a bind.
Mm-hmm. And you make that guy hesitate now. Now you got him in that moment where it's like, oh shit, they might hand that off again next time. Yep. Oh, okay. Now you got, and that hesitation is death. So you want to make guys have to think about it a little more, and they just didn't have to against the RPO against the Chiefs last year.
Yeah, definitely. They just are able to play it. You're playing rock paper scissors, but you're taking away your own scissors. Like, so I love you want it to. Great. And that's it. I mean, that's what you're doing though, and you're down. It's just you can't be predictable, and it happens to defenses too. But this is why I get mad at Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals offense. DeAndre Hopkins is always going to be on the left. AJ Green's always going to be on the right, which is fine when you have Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. But when Kyler is ad-libbing and there's no adjustment to injuries. It's just like, no, that's what we do. And when you're very static, then defenses, they get very smart. They get very going like, okay, every time they do this, we do this. Hey, don't even worry about the deep shot there because he's not going to throw it. He's going to pepper the underneath route because it's an RPO. And over time, defenses get smarter.
Yeah. So now I want to ask you something else about, like we're talking about, some of that too high stuff. And, one of the areas of the field that I don't feel like Patrick Mahomes has been attacking as much as that, that rail shot. He hasn't felt as confident throwing those outside the number throws, given some of these bigger bodies to do is, and obviously different coverages, but, back shoulder stuff too. Like that area outside the numbers, like it doesn't feel like, I feel like there's more there, but I mean, do you ever think that's going to be part of his game though? Like I'm torn between like, we're at a point where this guy is brutally honest with himself. He comes back and he develops in so many areas on the field every single year, but it just feels like there's not as much consistency with these, outside number throws where he's, willing to kind of give these guys opportunities. And he's got some intriguing guys in training camp with the Josh Gordons, with the Justin Rosses. It feels like it might be an underutilized area. I don't know what you think about that. Do you think we're ever going to see that part of Mahomes' game, or is this just kind of always going to be something that leaves a little bit something to be desired?
I think it's just what defenses have given them. And also, you're going to see more of that because more teams are going to do the cover 6 and maybe traditional cover 2. And that's a way to keep him honest. I think it's a little bit what he's being taught. I don't think that is when I see teams hitting hole shots, it's usually a lot of coaches that have come from a different system than what maybe this West Coasty Shanahan-y, because I kind of could read and Shanahan kind of cousins. But like, I feel like hole shots are more of the kind of traditional drop back stuff, Air Coryell, which is like Sean Payton is from, and you see with Joe Lombardi and Herbert, because their stuff is just more vertical on the outside. And I think that's just part of what you look at. Also, you got to just look at personnel. Kelce doesn't feel like Kelce is so quick and everything, but that's not kind of like his thing. Like, he's not really a dunker. Like Kelce's a torts.
Right.
Like he's like an up and under guy. But then okay, that's not really him, even though it should be. It's not. He's not a box out kind of guy. Okay, Tyreek's not that. Tyreek is. I felt like I've seen Mahomes, Patrick hit stuff to Tyreek a lot more in the red zone, like those kind of touch up and down throws where he can get it like boom boom.
Yeah,
but that's not the true hole shot.
Right.
So I just think maybe it's just what the weapons were. So I think I think a guy I feel like Juju would actually be pretty solid at them because he's big and it's just a big target that you can just pepper the ball right on because it's a pin shot. That's what that throw is. And Mahomes has that in the bag. I just don't think that's kind of what they like. That's the dial they turn up. Like if they see a cover 2, they'd rather hit a dig than hit a hole shot. I think that's just how they look at it.
Yeah. And now you got Justin Ross on the outside, who's going to come in and just absolutely the Chiefs
is a hype train
up on social media. Oh my goodness, he hasn't practiced this week, or he didn't practice in mandatory OTAs, and the hype train has still kept going. Like it's crazy. Oh man, I'm all on board for it.
He's gonna be the best practice squad player. Like
the Chiefs always tantalize us with these kind of guys. To be honest,
I do love it though.
I
know.
Yeah. They take swings. They take swings on these kind of guys, like Prince Tega Winogo, a guy that was pretty talented that had some knee issues that I think if he doesn't have those, he probably goes a lot earlier than he does a couple of drafts ago. Like they're always taking swings like that. Justin Ross, talent wise, we said the freshman version of Justin Ross goes like round 1.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a lot of
top 10.
He was nuts.
Yeah.
He's
insane.
People forget how good he was. And
I gave him a second round grade just off this past year too. And that's why it's like so frustrating.
When he could barely run.
I know. Hand-eye coordination is fantastic.
Body control and catching away from his frame.
He's fast. He's quick and twitchy. I kept using the term twitchy for him, but that's I don't know. I feel like, I know that medicals are just a disaster, but it's one of those that's like, I hope the stars align because he is so talented.
We put a third round on him. Yeah. So we weren't too far behind you from a talent perspective, but
he was insane to me. I know. I was trying to explain to people. It's like I know he's a medical reject, but if the team gets him as patient and it works out, it's gonna be great.
I know he could fall out of the draft, but hear me out here.
I was trying to talk him up in the third round. On shows I was on. Yeah, that was me just standing up, getting out over my skis, going, "No, he's talented. No, don't worry about it."
Yelling, yeah. See, every catch he's gonna have 13 catches for 160 yards this year, and you're just gonna every single one of those you're gonna clip them all up.
He can one hand them. Yep, it was like Amir Smith-Marset had 3 catches, but 2 of them were touchdowns.
They count, baby.
I got tagged 100 times for each one, so I was like, "Yeah, that's all that matters."
Was that one of your guys?
I loved Amir Smith-Marset. him, and then kind of Khalil Shakir this year were kind of and Alec Pierce was actually my dude. Alec Pierce was kind of my star highlighted guy.
That checks out. Big dude that plays in the slot and can run. Yeah,
I can run. Yeah. I think he'd be a good player.
He went a little earlier than I think people thought. I think I was actually close to what we had him evaluated. I think we had him the 60th overall player on our board or something stupid like that. But he wound up going before Sky Moore. The Chiefs traded out of 50. They moved back to 54. I think Alec Pierce goes 53. I think we were all clamoring for Sky. When we were doing,
It makes sense with what you guys have.
Yeah.
I mean, to me.
Well, we were talking about. Oh, go.
Like kind of like, you know how you could do like kind of like the upper like projection, middle projection, lower projection on a player. Like Pierce's like middle projections like MVS. Like, you know, like that's kind of like his like middle average landing spot, like what he could be. And it's like maybe a little more better ball skills, like in MVS has, you know, but yada yada yada. But it's one of those where that type of role, I think they already filled with that type of guy. Sky Moore gives them such a different type of player now for the receiver room. I love that fit. I thought that was great. I mean, if you couldn't get Chris Olave, you know, or Drake London, okay, this is a pretty nice consolation prize.
Yeah. What did what was your overall? You know, what did you like about Sky Moore?
Oh, yards after the catch. I thought I want to say also he's more of a splitter. He's not a juker, and I want that kind of like that's how I've looked at him. He's a one cut and go. He's like a zone running back, but playing receiver. I mean, but he has burst. And I like about that. I also like that every target he's going to make the most out of. Like his ball skills are outstanding. I thought he could really adjust for balls, especially the Buffalo game's the one that stands out to me. He caught like an inside fade where he adjusted for the throw. I really just like that kind of like steadiness he brought. He's like a good target. Good. Everything's good. On the flip side, like I said, I thought more of he was a splitter as opposed to a phone booth kind of guy, which is fine. To me, that's fine. I'd much rather have a splitter because otherwise you get the guys that lose 5 yards. And it's like, yes, you want one of those types of guys, but no. But I think just his ball skills, I think he's going to be a very good Z number 2. It makes sense to me because of the routes that the Chiefs started to utilize, which was double unders with like a bender from the number 3 spot. You have Sky Moore on one of those unders, catching it and splitting, going getting north right away. I think he could be devastating on those. So I really like the player. I think he'd be a really, really good player.
Especially coming off of the Chiefs having Demarcus Robinson out there running and then running backwards after every single catch. Like you're going to see Chiefs fans are just going to love Sky Moore.
He's trying to face up like Tyreek.
That's the best way I could describe him. That's what the Chiefs focus in the receiver room. They got efficient players. Juju is efficient. Juju gets tackled and falls forward. Like he's just like he's gonna get hit at 5 and get 7. Like that's what he does. He's not gonna do anything crazy. MVS is efficient. He's very straight line and efficient, but he's good at it. Like he's good at his particular skill set. Like, you know, and then like Sky Moore, he's an efficient mover. Like all these guys are just like efficient and get north. And it feels like, I mean, I know we're talking about the offense. I feel like on the defense they did the same thing. They're like, let's get guys that can tackle. And they're like, they just went back to the basics with everything. But I love it. You have a great offensive line and a great quarterback. You have to like do this stuff. Be efficient. You don't have to be, crazy and do anything wild. Just get back to the basics.
Well, like I think about, so like I look at Sky Moore, and we were talking a little about this a little bit before. Like I think Sky Moore might have been the best slant runner of the entire class this year. And you look at that, we're talking about the RPO slants a little bit. I know maybe they go away from it a little bit more, but like
they're still going to run them.
I know. And the RPO, the glance and the slant, like I mean, that's always going to be part of like Andy's RPO back. But you're a guy that's really good running that route with big hands, strong hands, consistent hands, and the ability to run through. Yes. You know, like that's been a formula for success for the Chiefs with the RPO slants. They've had a lot of explosive plays on guys catching confidently in the middle of the field and running through.
What you're saying, ability to run through that, and that's exactly what Moore does so well. Like that's what I mean by splitting.
Right?
You can picture it in your head how many that Mahomes was throwing. It would be like a little 4-yard gain, like right over the middle, because somebody would just be trying to do too much. So they just got the guy that could just go.
I'll go farther. I think one of the big problems, especially on those concepts, was drops.
Yeah,
and so like
you said, Sky Moore has big hands. He trusts his hands. That's
that
what you go through.
Just that like narrow skill set there, I think creates, more consistency with the offense from last year. Not to say like, and they're never going to replace Tyreek Hill, but like the Chiefs wanted to run those slants with Tyreek Hill for that run through because like I think it might've been Mahomes' first touchdown. was an RPO slant. He took it as a run through, and so like, I just like even just getting that particular piece. I'm actually kind of working on something. Like there's just like areas of the field, like all these guys. Like you look at like different areas that all these guys wins. I think that's the particular skill set for Sky Moore that's gonna like kind of be the X factor for him in year one, and hopefully he can build off of that. But I'm hyped about Sky. I think we were geeked out.
I loved it for him. I love this fit.
We did a mock draft we try to do like we try to do like a realistic mock draft where it's like, and everything's not falling on the mock draft simulator where you get all these screenshots of people telling you they should be the GM.
Yeah.
Or, we do doomsdays too, but just like realistic. And like we did like a realistic, like, you know what? Sky Moore at 30 is a reasonable pick for, like, we felt completely comfortable and happy if like Sky Moore's the pick at pick 30, had no problems whatsoever. It's just kind of, it's a solid double of a, it's a solid double of a first round pick. So getting him at 54 after trading back.
Yep.
That's
where I'd be comfortable taking him too. Like everything was perfect. Like I love, that's why it made sense. Like I love the pick. Like that's what was funny. He got so hyped. Like people were like, man, the Packers might take him at 22. It was like, no, or like whatever pick they had. I was like, no, guys, come on now. Like we all love him, but like we gotta be realistic about where he goes. No, that stat. Remember I said before, I was like, there's a stat I was trying to look up. I finally figured out what it was. Okay, this is relevant to Sky Moore and the yards after the catch. The split, those run through plays is air yards on dropbacks with 5 more pass rushers. So it gets the blitz, not the soft defense, but this tied into how soft defenses were playing. So 2019, Mahomes 7.2 air yards. 2020, 8 air yards against the blitz. So very hit them, punish them.
Way out there.
Last year is 5.2, which is one of the lowest of the last 3 years. I won't say it's like bottom. It was like bottom 5. It was the third. The one, 2 below him were Drew Brees in 2020 in his last year. And the one below that, and last was Cam Newton, and in 2020 with his year with the Patriots. And I'm not saying I'm just saying of how they got after defenses was creating more yak. And so I think that's where the Sky Moore stuff comes through. MVS and Juju being big targets for him, just kind of pin it on them, and they just get forward and they split them in their own way, more of a power way, and where Sky is more of the slasher. So that it just makes sense. Like it's these skill sets. They realized what plays were good for him, I think, in the last 4 or 5 weeks, and then they're like, okay, let's get the guys that this freaking works for, as opposed to kind of square peg round holing it.
I think I was gonna say, sorry, real quick, Craig. McCole Hardman was like a prime example of a guy I think that they kind of figured it out a little bit towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
and so instead of trying to load his plate up, I think you said at the beginning of the show, just let him be what he's good at and fast. And I mean,
just let him run. Run.
Manufacture a few touches behind the line of scrimmage, get him some of that easy stuff. Hopefully you can pop one down the field, which I think they popped one in, I think in the AFC Championship game. I haven't watched it since it happened. We were in Vegas, Nate. We were in Vegas. That's right.
That was Shrine Week, right?
Yeah. So we were there, and so we did all of our coverage. We did all of our coverage at a bar. What was that called? I
don't remember. It was a local Chiefs bar there.
There's a Chiefs bar, and they have a Naked City pizza attached to it, and the pizza was incredible.
Not bad.
Of course,
Blue Diamond Saloon is where it was at.
That's what it was.
It's Blue Diamond Saloon, and they had Naked City pizza, and the pizza actually kind of made it okay afterwards. Yeah,
I know, man. You really
the food here is amazing, because even just out here in the suburbs is just it's insane. It's all these strip chefs that are like, I'm tired of the strip. I'm going to open up my own little mom and pop shop. And it's just okay, cool. I love it. Thank you.
We ate incredible while we were there. We were we couldn't miss. It was great. Have you been to, I know this is on the strip and you're probably going to roll your eyes, but we ate at Tom's Urban in New York.
My dad loves that place. Yeah.
It was so good.
I like Tom's Urban. I like sitting outside there. It's they got a cool outdoor spot. I like Tom's Urban. They have buffalo chicken sliders that are fantastic.
We had 4 different cuisines when we went. We had Craig had a poke bowl. I had Nashville hot chicken. We had someone that had street corn and lobster mac and cheese. And the rib, the prime rib up. We all were sharing each other's meals. It was so good.
It's the best type of night.
Part of our healing process from the AFC Championship game.
You gotta go across the street from there is Italy, which is there's a few cities, but it's kind of an Italian market kind of spot. Ooh. And that place has just a fantastic little stands in there, and it's yes, but that's right across the street from Tom's Urban. So next time.
Well, we'll
all right,
probably.
I was going to say.
Sorry. Do we have to Can we do? Can we start talking wrestling? And all stuff?
Wrestling.
Yeah, sure. This is how we go for over an hour without Maddie here. Every time we have one of us that's gone, the other two end up going for an hour. So Nate, I'm glad that you're here for this. It's perfect. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm a great filler. Like Mino's producer was so ticked at me. I could tell, and I was just cracking jokes at him the whole time. Sorry, Tucker.
No, it just seems like the Chiefs, like you were saying, they're going to these RPOs, going and trying to hit some of this stuff, throwing hot against the blitz and stuff like that. They increase the strike zone a little bit, for lack of a better term. You got MBS that's got so much, height and length. You got Sky Moore that's got these giant arms, giant hands. Juju's a big dude as well. Mahomes said earlier on in the offseason, talking, when he was down there throwing to these guys before OTAs, even thrown to these guys, he was talking about letting the ball go from his hands and going, oh shit, I overthrew it. And all these guys are coming down with it. Like his sights don't have to be as calibrated in the same way anymore. And so we talk about how there's drops, tip passes, and things like that. And some of that may just be guys that they had last year being uncomfortable bringing in stuff outside their bodies. Now they bring in like a full complement of dudes that can just haul everything, like vacuum stuff in, even down to Justin Ross, guys like that just have those kind of hands and have the ability to bring all that stuff in. Even the same concepts are running before. It just seems like it's going to be so much more efficient than it was last year.
Yeah, and that's where the big targets are. I'm always going to prefer them. That's how I've always preferred receivers. Right. That comes through my dad, just what I've liked. I mean, I grew up with Randy Moss, so it's kind of, I know he's a totally different level, but 6'4" is very normal to me. So it's, that's the type of guy I like. But even like a guy like Nate Burleson was like 6'1", 6'1", 6'2". So that's how I picture my Z's. Like it's really hard for me to like or really praise like 5'11", 5'10" guys where I'm like, because I just see so many times when a Jalen Ramsey just eats them alive, or a bigger corner just swallows them up and they can't get off hard contact. But that's just a preference thing. But when you get smaller targets, you have to throw more of trick shots. And Mahomes this is what's amazing about Mahomes. So you can do the trick shots. But it is like you say, like a vacuum or the strike zone is bigger. It is now he can just line them in and miss better, like miss more accurately. And it's more just there's a lot more B+ throws as opposed to just like, oh yeah, he can make the A+, the fantastic out of this world throw, but let's just do some of the normal shit. Like let's just throw a line drive as hard as I can and just pin it on the guy. That's where big targets come in. Or if I do miss on this line drive, because the harder you throw, this is why like Justin Herbert's misses are like always so ugly, because he's such a line drive thrower. So it's just physics, just you throw a line drive, it's just going to look bad. Like as it goes out, when you throw a trick shot or a pop, like a little lob shot, you can kind of miss accurately or miss inaccurately because the ball's floating on you. You got the wind, you got defensive guys, but it's also going to be a cooler looking throw. But now if you just throw these line drives and just pin it on guys, that's where the big bodies come in. They can reach towards the ball. I think we always think of guys with long arms. This is why Sky Moore is pretty intriguing. Guys with long arms having a big catch radius. It's also towards the ball that they become bigger. So if you're playing against zone where defenders are squeezing on stuff, you face too high, you're facing quarters, and you have to throw into these in-between areas. Now I just pin it on them in the area because they can reach towards the ball and they're comfortable. All these guys are comfortable catching it away from them and then falling backwards, or it's splitting them like we've talked about before. But that's where, again, I hate using this term and I got to find a different term for it, but synergy. It's like if you play a video game or you get an RPG, booster, it's like if I use this pairing with this pairing, they both get 30% effectiveness.
Sure.
Like that's where kind of, this is this real world version of this. This is where it's kind of like the Madden, BS actually applies in real life football, because it's like, yes, this skill set applies with this or works with this skill set, and they kind of boost each other's like skills overall.
I think that's a great point. I think about some of the throws that we saw, even like going back to Mahomes' rookie year, where he got to I think teams are obviously they've figured out how to play him a little bit differently but I mean, I just remember like there was a ball against Pittsburgh that he just drove a ball through Travis Kelce's chest.
Yeah.
And it was down the field, and somehow Travis Kelce was getting to run free down the field, which isn't happening as much as it used to these days. And some of that stuff is like guys that they can kind of put some of those dots on. It's a great point. And like, that is like we've seen a little bit of that in the past, but I don't think, to your point, that he's had guys he's as confident kind of trying to fit a ball like that on a body.
Yeah,
And
like maybe Sammy, like
Yeah, when he was
Like,
healthy.
yeah,
that
yeah,
would
like
have been the last guy.
Sammy is the only guy I can picture receiver wise. Kelce, of course, is
Yeah.
Kelce.
I don't think he trusted Byron Pringle.
No,
I mean,
and Pringle felt like more like a runaway guy, like a trick shot guy. Where over, and this is also sorry, real quick, just sidebar is like this is where facing more quarters and robber teams that are working top down is again that's going to be more zoned. You're hitting the in between spaces, the benders, the hole shots, like you're talking about. Benders, I mean, like the seams, underneath throws, like I was talking about. As opposed to the difference where they're facing a lot of three match teams, like imagine the 49ers game when they hit Wasp, because that is a play off of an over. Because in those against those defenses, you want guys on the move, you want over routes, and that's just the difference. That's where speed is more effective, obviously. And now when you're hitting these in between spaces, size becomes more. And this is just where it's just the ebbs and flows of how football is. It's really annoying because as soon as you catch up to something, everybody changes. The meta changes. I think is the good term. The META. That the meta changes, and it's really fun, and it's also really annoying because all these plays you study for years that you think every team's going to run 15 times a game. Now it turns into one a game, and you're like, okay, well that was a fun Twitter thread.
And then on defense, they catch up finally, and you're finally to the point where it's like, okay, figured out how to stop that, and then the very next season, week 3, you're like, damn it. Now it's something completely different.
Yep.
We got to build a completely new defense again.
No QBR was over 70 last year. No QB had a QBR over 70.
Yep.
Like it was defenses struck back so hard. And but they did it in such a non-aggressive way, like just like making defenses or offenses be
too
patient.
high. It's keeping the lid on it. Yeah.
They're playing top down. It's like they rotate a guy, they're now able to. And I think Robert Mays, the co-host, puts it in a great way. They hold the pen last now, which is that the ebbs and flows of offenses and defenses. This is the counter to RPO. RPOs are easier to play against when you're playing top down as opposed to side. Right. If you're in cover 3 and you're sitting in that shell, I got to tackle a guy from the side as opposed to a safety coming down, just hitting a guy like in a tackling drill. It's just the defenses go, oh, this is a lot easier than trying to find some cool blitz or hoping we can find 3 like all world corners to play man to man every snap. Like this is a lot easier.
Well, I think like even like other non-Mahomes people making mistakes. Let not Patrick Mahomes make mistakes, and some of that top-down mentality forced the Chiefs to make a lot of long drives. Like I think about like Travis Kelce. I think worn down isn't like the right phrasing to say, but like he definitely saw some snap count decreases as the season went on, and like forcing Travis Kelce to play on the field longer, forcing Travis Kelce to have to to sustain more hits and in areas of the field. I think about things like that, even like that's the kind of stuff I worry about a little bit, and like mitigating that a little bit as kind of he goes to the next phase of his career. I think like the YISO stuff helps for sure. And the Chiefs are that's not going away for a while.
No, but this is a way, like you're saying, like you're easing reps for Kelce. There's Andy Reid's smart enough to know that Kelce's. I know Andy Reid expects all of his guys to be able to run all day. Like that is his. He practices guys hard in camp. He is. You get in shape. That's what I've heard, anyways. I've never worked for Andy, so but I think he's smart enough to know, like, okay, this guy's well into his 30s now. And okay, we can't have him on the field for 50 plus snaps, but okay, how are we going to be effective for those 10 snaps more that we can't use him on first and second down? Okay, well, let's make our 2 tight end looks look a lot better. Let's make the 11 personnel looks with Blake Bell or Noah Gray in there look better. And how do you do that? You make your run game better. You make your play action game better. So it's like a freaking. I'm going to basketball well again here. It's like having just a 6-man bruiser like down on the post. It's like, oh man, they got all the light bodies down there. Okay, just post them up. Just like a Zach Randolph, like just going to town down low on some 6'9" center on them and just getting plowed through. Like that is, I think, that's what they're thinking. I think when they're like, okay, these snaps that we have to spell Kelce because we can't lean on him. It's more just spreading it all out. It's the money ball. How do we create Giambi? Okay, we find these runs elsewhere. That's what they're doing with these different guys, and with Tyreek, I think.
And that's what I think that's why the offense is going to look so different. They're going to spread it around so much more. It's not going to be, we need to feed Tyreek, we need to feed Travis, and then we'll sort out the rest of those tertiary snaps elsewhere. It definitely seems like we're going to have a Juju game and an MVS game and a Sky Moore game and a Travis Kelce game and maybe even a Clyde Edwards-Helaire game. Knock on wood there. We're going to see it a lot more spread out, which is absolutely freaking terrifying for defenses, because any one of those guys can go out there and beat you on any given play. I think that's on Mina's pod. You were talking about how you believe the Chiefs are the number one offense. You pick them as your number one offense for next season. I think that's part of your logic behind it. You believe in Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the ability to win with all these different guys there.
Yeah, and I think having sometimes what your primary is, which is Travis Kelce. I don't think anyone has a question about that. That is the alpha of the attack of the passing game, which if you asked the last couple of years, you would kind of go, oh, 1A, 1B. It's sometimes nice to know what your primary pitch is, because then now you know what your secondaries are. And you can go, okay, this is our fastball. If they take away our fastball, now we can get into our other stuff. Or they take away that, they're waiting for that. Okay, now we can get to, like you say, your third role, your third options, your fourth options. Everyone's defined. And that sometimes is nice. And yeah, I have him as my number one offense. And I didn't think it would be that hot takey. Mina acted like it was pretty warm. But I think she take it.
Didn't you put him third?
I know.
Come on now.
I know. I think I'm just optimistic because I think Andy Reid and Mahomes are not happy. I think it's going to be the human element. I think they're ready to. Oh, you guys want to anoint Justin Herbert? Oh, Russell Wilson. That's what people forget. These guys are psycho competitors, and they read this stuff too. They might be nice guys and playing the golf stuff and but these guys
cold killers.
Yeah, we forget about it. They are really good at faking it. It's just that's what you don't understand. So I think I think just the other roles everyone's roles just make sense to me. And maybe it's because I am somewhat of a traditionalist with some of this stuff. But it seems like it's just going to mesh well. Even with CEH, his best runs at LSU were duo and insert.
Yep.
These exact plays that I think the Chiefs are going to lean into more.
Yep.
Again, it's another guy that's having a role fit him now. Because if you're they're trying to make the spread zone or the stretch zone work. And how do you have to make stretch zone work? Your running back has to be a blazer because he has to plant his foot, turn 90 degrees, turn 90 degrees and get north. And get north and in a hurry because that's how that works. They have to find the gap and get north. CH, what do you run, a 4.58?
Yeah, it was forever.
He plays like that. He's a north guy. He likes having his shoulders north. That's where, again, these run game, it matches what he does well. And that's when they ran to it against the Bills in the playoffs. They went to it and CH looked good in it. And it's like, oh,
great. Think about the first time. I think
awesome.
It was the first time that the first time they played the Bills, his rookie year too. He went nuts.
Yeah. That was the 200 game where they.
That was Kelce in the background or backfield is more of an H back. He was on the move a lot more as a blocking back. They did a lot again. Insert.
It's the insert stuff too, wasn't it? Yep.
It's a lot of times it just seemed to me that the Chiefs were like, well, no, we throw a 103 mile an hour fastball. You can't hit it. And I think that's what it's sometimes it stunned them where they were like, you're on our shit. It's and it seemed to me that the games when they're like, hey, let's eat our vegetables, they did the best. When they were doing stuff that's more traditionally based, that's more like, oh, okay, we got to fourth, but they went galaxy brain. And they just stayed in galaxy brain world. That's what it felt like to me. And they were still an awesome offense last year. That's what's so funny. It's like, but I just want them to be world beating every year. And they were still very good, I would say. But man, I don't think they're that. I think this is going to be a year where they are doing some cool stuff. And it's going to be, football is almost going to look like how it looked in 2008 with some modern sprinkles. You got quarters versus kind of play action. And I think we're getting back to that. I think that's going to be awesome because you're going to see some cool shit out of quarterbacks that can throw the ball 80 yards because that's where this game is going. And I think it's a lot of vertical stuff.
All right. So, do you got something, Craig?
Yeah, I was going to say like quarters was very prevalent in the early 2000s, very prevalent at the NFL level, and it went away because teams went to more traditional stuff. That is going to be the next logical way of going through that. And like I said, they built the offense that way.
Yeah, I know. That's why they're my number one team. I don't think it's that crazy. I could
calling
just
your
see,
shot ahead of time.
yeah, I could just see them putting up a lot. Like I don't know. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I really do. I could already see Hardman. Like I'm sorry, but just like a traditional play. You have the deep route, you have an intermediate route, you have a short route. I'm just drawing a basic. You have a post with an over and 2 checkdowns underneath. And okay, you got Hardman on the deep stuff. You got MVS on the intermediate and Kelce on the intermediate stuff. And then you got Kelce or Juju on the short stuff. Like it's just, or Sky Moore. And this is before we even get Sky Moore there. Sky Moore on the intermediate stuff. Imagine him on the dig. So you got Hardman run the post. Now you got Sky Moore running the dig underneath it or the over underneath it. He's on the move, which is like what he's good at. And he's comfortable catching on the move. And it's like, again, it's their skill sets match what I think they want to do. I don't know. I think it was just smart team building. I'm really like, I feel like I'm going crazy sometimes that it's like people don't, I think this is going to be a weird, it's bold take. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense are going to be good in 2022.
I know you talked about how petty and how you think Mahomes is going to go off and like just playing into all of that too. It's like, here's my hot take. This is super hot. We'll get you out of it. We're trying to get you out here in under an hour. But Patrick LeVon Mahomes I'm a lobbyist. Patrick LeVon Mahomes is winning the MVP this year. And I think the narrative is finally swayed enough to where the normalization of greatness that we've seen from him the last 4 years finally swings, where you've got the Tyreek Hill narrative. You've got, losing him, you've got some doubt in people's minds because of how last season ended. I just think there's enough
name receivers, quote unquote.
Yeah.
No name, quote unquote receivers helps. Like,
yeah.
No, I know with Travis Kelce, but
I know. It's like, but it's like that's what's so funny is people like act like the cupboard is just empty, and it's crazy.
Sense. Yeah,
I think we're scorched earth. I think he's gonna go nuts, and I cannot wait to see. I think people forget like. We jockey all these quarterbacks and like, Mahomes had a, quote unquote down year for him last year. But like, I don't think even like, I think we saw with 13 seconds left in the fourth quarter last year, like, there's just
in the first half against the Bengals. He was eviscerated.
Nuclear.
That's what people forget. We're like, that game sucked. It's like, the first half is incredible. Like he's going nuts.
You can call it, you can call it Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, but we're not accounting for there's still a gap there for me. And like, I mean, Josh Allen hasn't kicked the door down, and it literally Mahomes had 13 seconds left, and like Josh Allen still couldn't, he still couldn't break through that ceiling. And so like, I think this is the year without Tyreek Hill, that narrative kind of changes some things. People kind of realize it's Mahomes gap, everybody else. And like, that's kind of where I look at it. It's like, we have stopped counting for the gap, and like Josh Allen rules, and I love watching him play, and I was wrong on him on my eval, but I still think right. But like
outliers exist for a reason.
Right. And he's awesome. I love watching him.
Awesome. Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
But there's a different dude in Kansas City, and I think this is the reminder. I think he's going berserk, and I'm gonna write about it at some point. I've got a lot of thoughts. It's just so normalized. It's great.
Well, the last Alex Smith year, remember he was just guns blazing, just tossing it deep, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. Okay, Matt Nagy's back, and he was a big influence. I know Nagy was rough in Chicago. I watched a lot.
I think rough is an understatement.
Nagy's still running the same bubble RPO that Alex ran in 2017.
Oh my god, dude! It is. He didn't change shit. He didn't change anything. If you could tell what the Bears are about to run, because you just had to watch the Chiefs from 2 weeks prior, because they were trying to copy the same thing. But I'm about to after I just buried him, as they say in wrestling. He was so good on like the third down stuff, like because that's what he had a big influence in that last Alex Smith year. And just going it was awesome. It was just because a lot of those defenses on third down were playing the picket fence stuff, and that's really kind of similar with kind of just not how they're built, but they were playing top down, and how you get them out of it is you beat them over the top. So I'm kind of very curious, like if that he brings that stuff because he hasn't changed anything since 2017. So might as well bring it back 5 years later. Like, it's still relevant. I mean, that's all the Rams did. They just built their whole offense out of it. They just went, they did their own version of it. They just went empty with the 2 chip help guys. I got 20 seconds before an hour.
I know.
And they just went, and they went deep. They went the whole 7-step drop stuff. And I just think the Chiefs are going to find their version of that.
Nate Tice with The Athletic. Thank you for joining us. That's the KC Laboratory. We'll catch you later.
Awesome.